Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. And we always invite all opposing views. Everyone would agree that while we are under emotional duress, that we are more likely to make a mistake than when we are in control of our emotions. This may seem logical to you, but often our anger takes us away from quality decision-making and supplants it with anger. The use of frustrating language often kills opportunity for resolution. Sounds logical, right? But when angered, we strike back, or we cower away from that which makes us feel small or unable to stop the negative displays. Help for those who need to make familial decisions. The focus today on FIT TV, and I have with me on my left Gary Jacobs, Americans for Legal Reform President and Family Law Reformer, and to his left Dr. Carlos Rivera, pediatrician and also a victim of the court system. Okay, before I get into the pecking order, which I do want to talk about, there are choices, decisions, and consequences. We make them, all of us have to make them. But when divorce is imminent, most of us have a difficult time in the order and the process, and we make decisions sometimes too quickly. Is there something that we should pay attention to more than another, and what kind of effect do they have when we make those wrong choices? Either one of you.
I think talk about decisions in a divorce. First of all, I almost think you shouldn't be allowed to make a decision in divorce because you're in the worst stage of your life, and we'll talk about later with Carlos what he went through, but you cannot think clearly. If there's a person who's going through an acrimonious divorce here in Long Island, because this is where I'm experienced, most likely you're going to suffer PTSD. And I think now we recognize, because of what's happened with the Iraqi vets, PTSD is real. I've met people who suffered it, I've suffered it, and I don't know about you, but let me tell you, it is a real thing. You cannot think clearly. You're up all night. I'm not going to diagnose people, but listen, you can read what they are. Almost everybody suffering PTSD is going through the courts. On top of it, now you get a judge who are these disgusting human being judges in Suffolk County who are abusive themselves. They're not sitting there saying, you know what, let's work this out. They're abusive, nasty people. For the most part, there are a few exceptions. But for the most part, they're just nasty human beings. So now you're going there thinking you're in a nice arena, and they're being nasty too. Then you got your spouse's lawyer, and they're going after you. You're being attacked from all directions. How can you think clearly?
Of course.
And I don't think any judge should let you make a decision.
That arena isn't so friendly. The court system itself is very intimidating. The idea that a judge
Most of us have never been there before.
They have court officers, they have juries, everything is hard wood. It looks intimidating. It looks like a place for criminals, doesn't it?
It is intimidating.
I mean, think about
a criminal.
It. Isn't it? It's more of a place for criminals than it is for a person who's possibly considering the divorce, in their family.
I actually think there's something funny about it because I didn't even realize I was in court because I felt like I was in the principal's office. Like,
yeah.
there's a desk there. Like, is this the real thing? Like, is this what we have? Because I was expecting the judge on this giant podium and lawyers, and it was confusing to begin with. You're not aware of what the
and
what
that
the
means something.
Gonna be.
It means something how you feel about the room that you're in. Go ahead.
It does because we have these preconceived notions. We're raised with these thoughts of like, this is a court and there's a jury and we have the right to defend ourselves, and you really don't. It's completely like what happened. I can't speak in my own behalf.
Yeah.
I have to sit there and be quiet. I could be put in contempt for trying to defend myself. It's crazy. And one of the things I think would be wonderful is if somehow safeguards were incorporated into this whole process. For instance, if I was an airline pilot and I'm under duress, I suffer from depression and it's getting a little ahead of me, I have a substance abuse problem, you are grounded.
Yeah.
You're not flying an airplane, you're not in charge of these lives, you're not doing anything. Military, you can't make decisions. If your thought process is compromised by stress behind the lines, there are certain things where you get assigned a different position. In here, they purposely confuse you because now you're the ultimate victim. You don't know how to think. I'm supposed to believe in these people, but in reality, you can't.
Wow,
they're looking to gain
victim
from you.
is a little hard
And
to
they
hear.
know it.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
They know it. One of the things I think is funny is they have you sign these agreements and you sign one. So what they do is after you sign an agreement, that you shouldn't have probably signed, you go up in front of the judge and they do what's called an allocution. And they say, has anybody forced you into signing this agreement?
Yeah.
Has anybody pressured you into signing this agreement? Well, of course they did. I was afraid I was going to lose my kids, or my lawyer, I couldn't afford to pay another $30,000.
And my lawyer recommended that I sign the damn thing.
Right, everybody's lying in their allocution, right? Are you on any medication? Well, if you've been in the court for 2 or 3 years, you're probably on Prozac or Xanax.
You know,
so now you're on a medication on top of it.
I think one of the other problems is there's no accountability as far as, in my opinion, there's no accountability for the attorneys, so they can lead you whichever way they want. Now,
Right.
in my profession, I have to really make sure that people understand what I'm describing to them. Here's the treatment course, here's the problem, here's what you have.
Is the medication for...
Yes, and
whatever.
I'm a huge advocate to my patients. Like they say, you don't seem like the average doctor. It's like, because I need to speak in a language you can understand. I can't speak in lingo, and I think the doctors
Kudos
that
to
do
you.
that,
Kudos to you.
I try.
But if you don't, you'll also get sued.
Well,
There's
exactly.
repercussions.
But the thing is, a lot
That's
of
not-
doctors hide behind the
Their profession?
the profession, behind the lingo, and it allows the patients to like, well, I don't really understand, so they sit there confused, like, okay, I explained it, let me move on to the next
So the lawyers
patient.
are hiding behind.
And again, the lawyers hide behind the lingo. I still don't understand a lot of the terminology that destroyed my life.
Right.
And the truth is, because they spoke in a different language, I trusted them, and the truth is, they're not accountable. And when you realize that they're not accountable, that should raise warning signs, and people should really start speaking up. And that's one of the things that I love about Americans for Legal Reform, because they're trying to inform people of what actually goes on. And in the past, I thought that, well, these are sidewalk preachers, let me go on the other side of the sidewalk. And now I start to stop and listen to these people like, what are they trying to tell me? Because now things like there should be cameras in court. You should have the right to have other people sit in. Like, Gary, I would like for you to explain like what it's like to be a legal advocate and the way you're treated in court. Even when you're trying to get help, they really make it difficult
yeah.
for
They
you
do.
to get that help.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we talk about this at Americans for Legal
Sure.
Reform. When I met them originally, and one of the things that the founder, Carl Lancezaris, said is, well, what we do is court watchers. So what the heck is a court watcher? Why do I need it? Well, you realize how important it is because they hide behind secrecy. So, I mean, one of the issues that we have is these backroom conferences that we've all experienced. You don't know
Yeah, and we always
what's
recommend
going
not to
on.
go to the
and
back,
you know,
yeah.
the lawyers talking to the judge and their friends. So as an advocate, like we're saying, that the title of your show was talking about you can't make the right decision. Well, you need an advocate, but who the heck's going to be your advocate? You can't have your friend and family because, like Carlos said, you know, when you go in there, you don't know what a pendente lite, an OSC, temporary restraining order,
Ex
and-
parte,
You know,
yeah.
exactly. You don't know what any of this stuff means. So who's going to be your advocate?
Sua sponte is another one I love.
There's another thing that's very interesting when you're talking about back court decisions and your life is being decided and you're not even privy to the conversation. One of my favorite experiences that I actually tried to suppress this memory until you just brought it out was I was incarcerated.
Thanks, you, Gary. Thank you, Gary.
No, but here it is, like the decisions you make, and then I made a decision like, okay, I think I'm doing the right thing. The lawyer's looking out for me. Next thing I know, my life is in ruins. It's destroyed. And I'm a physician, never was in trouble ever in my life. Now I'm in jail. A wonderful memory that you just brought up was that I remember having a video conference. So I'm in jail, and I'm in my jail scrubs, essentially, and I'm watching a TV that's behind glass, like bulletproof glass, and my case is being discussed with the sound off. So I'm sitting there trying to see what's going on, and I could see my lawyer talking to that lawyer. My ex-wife is there, and there's a magistrate. I was like, I would love to know what's going on here, because
Yeah.
all I know is I'm in jail right now, and I would really like to be out of here right about now. And these things like, how on earth
Yeah.
can your life be affected like that?
You're not even
And
in the
you don't even-
conversation.
You're not,
Yeah,
in
not
on
even
it.
part of it, yeah.
It's amazing. And that's another thing I love is like, it's so unbelievable. It's so egregious. I tell it all the time. People do not believe the
They have
victims.
no idea.
And they're like, no, that would
Yeah.
never happen. No way. And you see in their faces like, trust me.
You know,
it
more
isn't until
people-
you get snared into the quicksand that you realize that what I'm telling you isn't,
Like
you know.
Gary just said a little while ago about the judges. You know, the judges are a problem everywhere.
The biggest problem,
And
especially here. We're
Here they are in this place where they're presiding over the event. The event of what? Your life. Then you have an attorney on the other side. He's against you. You have a court officer. You don't know what the hell he's doing. You're in an intimidating environment. And if your lawyer decides to make you sign a contempt order or something, you have everyone against you.
Listen.
You have nothing for
you.
you.
The way I feel is the judge has a moral responsibility. Like in his case, you know, if you're signing, or any case, you're signing a deal, if there's something that they know that you can't do, the judges are all too happy to say, I don't care, get him out of my courtroom. He agreed to it, now it's his problem.
That's right.
The judge, to me, should have some kind of responsibility, whether it's moral. I think they have a legal responsibility to make.
This is the problem with the family court from going way back. There isn't any normal course for the average couple. Everything changes. It's all different.
Any person who took a step back would look at his case and say, this is not going to be a good
Some
deal.
are a little clearer. His is clear to me.
But you know, it's funny, but talking about his case, when he came to Americans for Legal Reform for help, and we told people, look, we're helping this guy. He went to jail. Now they're looking to put him. They said, well, he signed it. He's a doctor. He's a smart guy.
The consequences.
Come on.
Of
what do you mean he didn't know he was signing?
Oh, yeah, I love
right?
that.
He's a doctor. He's a
yeah,
genius.
they said that to me. This guy makes 6 figures over here. He's worth paying it, but I'm only earning 60 at the time. You'll make it.
But I laughed.
You'll make it eventually.
He was under stress.
That's
You can do it.
It's a convenient excuse used by the courts to say that you're a bright person, and to me that just it's a symbol of the absolute arrogance. Because what I tell people all the time is like, I have an area of expertise in one thing. I love children, I love science, I was always a geek. But when I go and, I couldn't, as smart as I am, I can't fix a car. If you have me trying to fix a car, someone's going to die because it's not going to be able to stop. So that person is vitally important, and that person has that expertise.
Right.
So when the judges and the lawyers say these kinds of things, it's a convenient excuse to set you up and to continue this malicious behavior against you. And the other thing I really want to point out to people is like, these people are colleagues. And this is a topic you could really talk about, because Gary's representing me and Chris DiMaggio's representing you. And then like, okay, so in court they put on a show, and then in the hallways or at some, they go out to dinner. Hey Gary, I tell you what, on the Rivera case, I'll throw you this, you throw me that.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't think that doesn't occur.
It happens right in the judge's chambers,
It's
I
happening.
believe, all the time.
It's definitely happening.
So people need to know that. So even when you're like, I hired this guy's a pit bull, he's a shark, there's blood in the water, he's going to find it. It's like, no, they're friends.
I think it's funny now. You can look on Facebook and see they're usually friends on Facebook.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Right?
It's like, wait a minute, he represents me.
Right.
One of the things I love is I had an attorney, a well-known, well-respected attorney in the Patchogue area that's a local legend, and I'm sitting at his desk, and he has something above his desk that says, falsus in un, falsus in omnibus. So I was like, gee, that's an interesting statement. What does that actually mean? He's like, well, one lie means that they're all lies. Yeah. I was like, gee, that's awfully interesting that you have that over your desk, because it's all a show.
Yeah.
That was the lingo that this person's famous for saying behind the scenes. Like, it's all drama. It's all show. Your show is my life.
In the play of Chicago, they made fun of that particular aspect when lawyers play games and they make it a show. And Razzle Dazzlin' is the name of the song. I don't know if you've seen Chicago. You should all watch Chicago and pick up on the Razzle Dazzlin'.
But it is a show. They perform. I see them in the hallway. The lawyers, they perform. For their client. And my best thing is when they go in behind the chambers and they come out, and I listen as an advocate to both sides. And I'll hear the husband's lawyer come out and go, I did great back there in the chambers. The judge is going great. He listened to everything I said. And then the wife's lawyer will go to them and you'll listen. I did great in the chambers. I put them in their place. Well, you both can't be telling the truth.
Well, the results are poor. And I'm still upset about the fact that they had to put a set of laws into effect in 1964 when they started the family law court, when you started to be able to go to family court to separate and divorce. And then the sets of laws they were just originally, just like most things, a very small booklet with a couple of different things in it. Now it's volumes. What they tried to correct, that would just keep on failing. There isn't any hope that it's ever going to go back. So we're always going to be trapped in this melee as long as we keep going to court. So the consequences we make when we choose to go to court is the inability to be specific, the inability to find an answer, and the unlikely choices that your family's going to come out winner.
But I think the show that you want, that you were talking about is real. How you can't make a decision when you're under the stress in court. So I think the people watching are wondering, well, what do I do if I can't make a decision? Who's going to help me? And Carlos made the mistake of saying, well, I can't make this clear decision. I'm a smart guy. I know I can't. So I'm going to trust my lawyer that my lawyer is doing the best thing for me. Not true, and I'll tell you why. Number one, he ran out of money. So the lawyer said,
I didn't have it to begin with.
So there was no money, there's no money to keep fighting. Number two, the judge wants it to be over. So the judge is telling the lawyer, get this guy out of my courtroom. I don't care what you do. Get him to settle. So they make him sign an agreement. So what do? Well, Americans for Legal Reform is a good person because they're advocates. They're thinking clearly. I haven't been I'm not emotionally involved in your case. And many times what I'm there to do is say, don't sign the damn agreement.
Yeah.
I just had somebody today who's going to sign an agreement for $250,000. I said, but can you pay $250,000? He goes, no, but what am I going to do? I said, you cannot sign an agreement that you cannot afford
See, my
to pay.
lawyer, when I was in court, coerced me to signing. The
Well,
judge
his lawyer's
is not
coercing
gonna
him too.
Judge is not going to like it if you don't sign this.
This guy's saying, well, the judge took
and
$100,000.
that just made it terribly worse.
He said they took $100,000 off the deal. It was $350,000, now it's $250,000. I said, who cares if it's $1 million?
Yeah.
I think that the problem too is that they exploit your lack of knowledge and honestly your confusion and your emotional stress
And the fear. And the
it is.
fear.
And this is
You're dangling somebody's kids in front of them.
I
Yeah.
truly felt like this. You're a drug addict, but let's have counseling for you behind a crack house. Or I'm an alcoholic, so we're going to have AA in the middle of a bar. And not to be condescending to these people because they're fighting disease and they're trying hard. But what I'm trying to use by those examples is that you are completely exploited in here, and then you don't know what to do. You're confused. You're upset. You had a marriage that failed. You're stressed out. My children, my career, what's going to happen? Where am I going to live? And now you're being given this advice. And what I love is the pre-trial pats on the back, like, we're going to be okay. You're going to do this. You're going to win. Here's that and the other thing. Give me my $10,000, the $10,000 retainer, whatever it may be. And in the beginning, they're returning your phone calls. Text me anytime you want. Call me. I'm your
bill
friend.
for emails,
and
a bill for phone calls.
And the minute the meter starts, you can't get a hold of them.
No.
I didn't realize that every time I call you to do things you were supposed to do anyway, it's going to cost me $150.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the reality starts coming in, and now it gets worse.
I love it. You're in a place where you don't know anything, and you have to pay for advice and questions.
and
you have
here's
to pay for questions.
Well,
Wait a minute, I don't
their
know what's going
mistakes
on.
is like, you know what?
For them
So
to learn.
yeah, if I go, I used to be in rough carpentry and construction. It's like, so if I build your house and all the construction was faulty and it falls down, it's like, gee, Chris, I'm really sorry, but I tell you what, let's give me another 30 grand and I'm going to fix it for you. It's like, no, you broke it in the first place and you're going to fix it now.
And another thing I've seen a lot of times, and I'm sure people who are watching the show are going to have the same thing, is when they tell you all this stuff, and then right before the trial, when they realize, well, they led this guy down the wrong road, he's about to get an ass whoop, and he's going to end up in jail, he's going to lose custody, guess what? They bail on you. They don't want to show up to court because they don't want to be that attorney who was there when Dr. Rivera went to jail, or where Jane Doe lost custody of her kids and the woman lost, all of a sudden the lawyers disappear. Well, look, you didn't give me any money, you got to get a new.
Yeah.
They purposely start a fight with you so that you want to fire them. They don't want to be on the case.
I call that the compressible settlement, because actually the settlement becomes less and less available as soon as problems start to develop. Your truth and consequences are diminished, and your ability to get a successful settlement diminishes and sometimes disappears because you don't have money or something else happened, like you said.
The hindsight advice is one of my personal favorites. It's like, well, I don't know how this got here. If I was handling a case, this wouldn't have happened, this, that, and the other things. Like, it's all hindsight. It's like, okay, let's help me from this point on.
Yeah.
And one of the other thing too is Gary mentioned firing. That's a very important point. It's like, if you feel you're not being represented properly, fire them on the spot. Because when I went, I had, again, this law firm that was
How
well
does the
known.
average person know, though, before you tell me the story?
Because they have to be aware. There's no way for
But
them
I
to
think
know.
people sense
and
it,
you're
though.
afraid. You're afraid
I
to
don't
fire
know.
Yeah,
them.
people are afraid to
I
fire the
sat in
lawyers.
trial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
I sat in trial next to my lawyer. It's like, okay, well, this is a well-known firm, and all I hear is all this positive things, how they win, their sharks are this. And I sat there in trial. I couldn't speak for myself. And I was like, feel free to jump in whenever you want. and I was under the naive impression that all this documentation that I brought was like, this will clearly show what's going on. And it's like, what I find out after I'm in jail is like, well, the magistrate really didn't have any she didn't need to read that unless your lawyer brought it up.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm like, well, isn't that wonderful? I didn't know that before.
A choice that you didn't make and a consequence you had to suffer.
Exactly. So it's submitted as evidence, but since he never spoke about it, meanwhile, I'm thinking, oh, well, they must have read all these volumes of paperwork because they commented on it. So again, to get back to the original point, if you're not being represented properly, fire them.
And if you don't feel like you're being represented, because a lot of times people get the feeling, but a lot, you know what it is, you also get a bond.
I don't know what to
it's
say
sort of
about
like the
that.
psychologist.
Yeah, well, that's the salesmanship you were
Right,
talking
but it's
about.
also like-
They sell themselves
But also
to
this
you.
person, your life is in their hands, so it's sort of like Stockholm syndrome to some extent.
That's funny, I was thinking exactly
with an
that.
attorney,
Exactly, right,
that you're
yeah.
like, you know what, I feel like it's not right, but they're protecting my life. And also,
it's warm peeing in the website.
it's also a problem with starting all over again, because mentally it's very hard to relive your whole case. And you know, if you fire your lawyer, you have to start all over again. So the advice would be, don't let it get that freaking far, and try to stop. If your lawyer goes in and says, we're going to file all these motions, don't do it.
I submit to you, though, honestly, I don't believe the average person can make good decisions.
They can't, but what do you do?
About the choice.
You need an advocate.
You get out of that system altogether.
Well, that's the best thing, but
I mean,
sometimes
before
you
you get there, I mean, if it's possible at all to choose a mediator, do it. Choose a mediator.
sometimes you can't.
Absolutely.
Get out of that system.
That's an awareness thing. People need to realize that mediators are available.
Like you said,
They're
sometimes
out
you
there.
can't. Sometimes
You can't.
yeah.
So
You don't
that's,
know.
this show is sort of almost like where you can't. If somebody files and says, I'm taking you to the cleaners, and I'm going,
Yeah.
you can't do it. So now what do? I tell people, again, if they're railroading you into this decision, and if I was with you when they were pushing you to get this decision, I would say to get in front of the judge and say, Judge, yes, I'm signing this agreement, but nope, I'm pressured into it. I'm not in the right frame of mind. I am depressed. I'm suffering
That's the
PTSD.
subject
But my
of it.
lawyers are telling me that you, Judge, want me to sign this agreement. That'll shut them up awfully damn fast.
It's
That's not a bad
important, too.
idea. You redirect. You're actually
And then they'll say,
redirect.
okay, go to trial. But you can't even,
That's not a
honestly,
bad
you can't
idea.
even be on trial.
And here's
Another
here's
good
not
idea,
saying.
Gary. It's another good idea.
Another quick point I want to make is that I also advocate for depression. I suffer from depression my entire life. I had a major event happen in my life, the loss of both of my parents, med school, and then my depression got worse. I had a predisposition, and then I fell into depression. That was extremely magnified when I was approaching divorce. So now I ended up having
But Doc, you're smart. You're supposed to be able to step. I mean, that's what they said.
But here's the other point. You're smart, but also I'm human. So my depression became a medical situation that I needed treatment for. I ended up, and I was in a hospital for depression for a nervous breakdown, or if I was rich, it would be called exhaustion.
Yeah.
And now I come out, and within 2 weeks of being released from, an admission for a major depressive episode or nervous breakdown, I'm now at a conference table saying, just let me get this over with and just sign it. Let me just sign it. And again, now you go back and you're like, I should have never been in a position where that was presented in front of me.
Well, your lawyer should have protected you.
Exactly, and they didn't.
And there's laws against it, actually,
Yes.
that say if you know, and they made fun of you, I remember in one of the cases.
I was ridiculed
They ridiculed
in
him for
court.
saying he had depression. He was
You know.
using it as a crutch.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, and I was like, if I was sitting here with a cardiac monitor after having a heart transplant or a
cancer,
cardiac
they would
condition-
say, oh, he's using his cancer as a
yeah,
crutch.
Or if I walked in with a very physical disability, then people would like, oh my God, you said that to a handicapped man. He came hobbling in on crutches. And the thing is, again, the trust that you put into these people, and people need to be aware. Like, if I give somebody ridiculous advice and they follow it, I'm responsible for that ridiculous advice.
Yeah.
So if a child comes in and they have pneumonia and 104 fever, it's like, you know what? Just rub some Robitussin on the outside of his chest and he's going to be okay. And then it's like, oh, now my kid's in the hospital because you told me to rub Robitussin on the chest. As outrageous as that sounds, that's the equivalent to the advice I got.
See, I would like to place in the last minute or two, we only have a couple of minutes left, the judge's decision has consequences also. So when a judge decides, or the lawyer is able to produce the judge to decide, and it's still not you in the equation yet, and the children's dysfunction is there. Now, the judge will never be responsible for the children's dysfunction, but clearly that's the line we should follow.
I agree.
To bring the information out to the public, let them know that you're out of that decision.
I hold my judge
I'm out of that
responsible for what happened
decision.
with
My
kids.
kids
Exactly.
are I'm out of the decision
And I think you do too.
with my own kids.
Absolutely.
How can that be?
I know I personally hold Marion McNulty responsible
there you go.
for whatever,
That's
and
what
the
I'm
law
saying.
guardian, Kathy Small, a miserable human being. May she both rot in hell. These women destroy. Listen, my wife's crazy. My ex-wife was crazy, but they let her do it. And in his case too, they should have stopped it. Enough with this nonsense. This man is a pediatrician. He's a smart man. He's dedicated his life to children. Don't go down this road.
That was
It's
ironic.
Settle the
something
damn-
like
settle the
you
damn
suffer,
case.
young man, because you can recover, because you're able to. I didn't like
Right.
that theory. They said they
Well,
gave
but
me that crap
automatically,
too.
automatically, his ex-wife is going to be
target.
the victim. He can't be a victim. He's a doctor.
Well, I think, and I would like to quickly go back to what would the effect on children. I'm trying to raise awareness for parental alienation as well as depression in the whole process. But this should be a punishable offense. If I physically harm a child, immediately that child is removed from my custody. They're in a safer position. If I mentally torment this child, that's much more damaging, and I'm allowed to do it over a long period of time. This is something that needs to be a punishable offense. It really is.
Jeez, wouldn't that be great?
It would be. And that's the thing, is we need to change it. I think in silence, and we accept these things, we're allowing these things to happen, these horrible acts. And I think that we need to speak out. By saying nothing, we're allowing it to happen.
You know,
we're condoning
that's why
it.
we're hearing. That's why we're doing this show. But the culpability of the judges can't be. What do they hope? They're immune.
Absolute
Their
immunity.
immunity. Absolute
Absolute
immunity.
immunity. And we all know absolute
Which
immunity
is
corrupts.
ludicrous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Absolutely.
And this is worse than a politician. They're destroying lives.
Yeah.
The politicians are stealing our money.
You
These
can't-
people are destroying our children's lives.
You know, it goes beyond the negative effect that we feel. It's the ramifications of the children's lives that
Exactly.
go forward. That we now have to collect their dysfunction and do.
And they always say,
something
we
with
don't care, we don't care about you. We care about your kids.
Yeah.
They really don't care about your kids.
That's the horrible thing. Look, I can recover, I can move on, I can deal, I can learn to adapt. When you're watching it happen to your child or someone else's child, like, this needs to stop, this can't happen.
lifetime
And
you're
that's,
looting.
That's what
Right,
they're
right.
causing.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Carlos Rivera and Gary Jacobs. Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture, and at FIT we cannot get this information. We're the only people that can give this to you. So my name is Chris DiMaggio. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again next week.